Words are not just sounds, they are forces. When we speak, we create. Every sentence we utter carries energy, and that energy has the power to build or break, to inspire or to injure. Whether whispered in intimacy or shouted in anger, our words become the blueprint of our relationships, our confidence, and our sense of reality. Most people underestimate the weight of what they say, not realizing they are speaking their world into existence, one conversation at a time. From a very young age, we are shaped by the words spoken over us. A single compliment can ignite belief, and a single insult can take years to unlearn. Think of how many adults still hear the voice of a teacher who once said, "You're not smart enough," or a parent who muttered, "You'll never make it." Words become echoes that live inside us. They influence the way we show up, the risks we take, the love we believe we deserve. And if we're not conscious, we end up repeating those same phrases to others, passing down invisible wounds like heirlooms. When you speak about yourself, you are either nurturing your spirit or cutting it down. The words "I can't," "I'm not good enough," or "I always mess up" aren't harmless habits. They are internal scripts that guide your behavior. The more you say them, the more your brain believes them. And before you know it, you're living out the limits of your language. Words become self-full, filling prophecies. Speak limitation often enough, and soon you don't even try. We speak carelessly because we live reactively. But if we understood that each word was a seed, we might be more thoughtful about what we're planting. When you speak kindness, it grows connection. When you speak encouragement, it cultivates courage. Your words are the garden of your relationships. They either nourish trust or suffocate it. You can't speak bitterness and expect intimacy. You can't speak resentment and expect joy. Even in silence, our words linger. What you said in frustration 3 months ago might still be living in someone's chest. We remember what was said when we were most vulnerable. So much damage in this world comes not from violence, but from the words people never take back. And yet the opposite is also true. The right words at the right time can lift someone out of despair. A sincere "I believe in you" can change the direction of a life. Words are tools of leadership. The difference between a boss and a leader is often in how they speak. A true leader uses language to awaken possibility. They don't shame. They don't belittle. They speak in ways that pull the best out of people. Whether you lead a company, a classroom, or a conversation at your dinner table, your words are a reflection of your vision. What you say reveals what you expect, what you value, and what you believe others are capable of. Social media has turned speaking into performance. We've become obsessed with saying things that sound good instead of things that do good. But wisdom isn't loud. Integrity isn't flashy. The most powerful words are often quiet, private, intentional. The real question is not how many people liked what you said, but how many lives were better because you said it. Are your words aligned with your values? Are they healing or are they harming? And then there's the way we speak about the world. When you constantly say, "Nothing ever works out," "People can't be trusted," "This world is getting worse," you start to build a reality based on fear. You stop seeing beauty. You stop seeing possibility. Your language becomes a filter, and your life begins to match the tone of your tongue. What you say about life determines how you experience it. We are not taught how to sit with our emotions. We are taught how to hide them, deny them, push them down, or wrap them up in distractions. But emotions are not problems to solve. They are messengers. Every emotion has something to teach you. Anger shows you where your boundaries were crossed. Sadness shows you what mattered. Fear shows you where you crave safety. Joy shows you where you're aligned. To master your emotions is not to suppress them, but to understand the message beneath them. Reaction is what happens when you don't pause. It's the sharp text you regret, the defensive tone, the overthinking spiral. But when you respond instead of react, you reclaim your power, that space between stimulus and response, however small is where your growth lives. Emotional mastery is the ability to slow down enough to ask, what am I really feeling? What do I actually need? It's not about being cold or emotionless. It's about choosing intention over impulse. You don't need to believe everything you feel. Emotions are data, but not always truth. Just because you feel rejected doesn't mean you are. Just because you feel anxious doesn't mean you're in danger. When you observe emotions without immediately attaching to them, you create space for clarity. This is where the shift happens from being controlled by your emotions to being curious about them. Curiosity softens the chaos and turns pain into insight. Emotional intelligence begins with emotional literacy. Most people only know how to name 2 or 3 feelings: happy, angry, sad. But the emotional landscape is far more nuanced than that. There's disappointment, frustration, longing, envy, serenity, gratitude, guilt, awe. The more language you develop around your emotional world, the more choices you gain in how to navigate it. Words give you access to deeper self-awareness. Without vocabulary, emotions become overwhelming. With it, they become guideposts. A mastered emotion does not mean an invisible one. You can be calm and still deeply grieving. You can be composed and still moving through heartbreak. Emotional mastery isn't about hiding, it's about holding. Holding space for yourself, holding presence in discomfort, holding others with empathy without drowning in their pain. It is the quiet strength of not letting external chaos dictate your inner state. So many people confuse emotional mastery with avoidance. They say, "I'm fine," when they're breaking. They numb out with food, screens, work, or busyness and call it resilience. But real strength is not numbing. It's feeling without crumbling. It's crying without shame. It's saying, "This hurts," without being ruled by the hurt. You don't become free by running from pain. You become free by learning how to carry it without losing yourself. When you master your emotions, you change how you show up in conflict. You no longer need to be right to feel worthy. You no longer explode to be heard. You can listen without defending, speak without attacking. You stop needing to win and start choosing peace. That shift doesn't just change relationships, it transforms them. Emotional mastery turns blame into dialogue, resentment into honesty, and tension into trust. And in the quiet moments when no one else is around, emotional mastery gives you inner stability. It means not being hijacked by moods, not waking up joyful and becoming bitter by noon because of one comment or email. It means being anchored, deeply, steadily, regardless of what the world throws at you. Emotions still visit, but they don't stay uninvited. They pass through, you greet them, you learn from them, and then you let them go. Money is not just a tool of exchange, it's a mirror. It reflects how you see yourself, what you believe you deserve, and how comfortable you are receiving. Most people think money is just about math, but it's deeply emotional. Your earning, spending, saving, and even your giving habits are shaped less by income and more by identity. If you believe you are not enough, money will never feel like it's enough either. People with low self-worth often undercharge, overgive, or settle for less. They convince themselves that asking for more is greedy, that negotiating is rude, that investing in themselves is selfish. But money flows where there is value. When you don't own your worth, you unintentionally block opportunities. You shrink, you stay silent, you tolerate lack not because it's noble, but because it feels familiar. The scarcity outside begins with scarcity inside. Many of us were raised with silent money scripts. We can't afford that. Rich people are greedy. Money changes you. These phrases, often repeated in childhood, become part of your subconscious financial identity. Even as adults, You may sabotage abundance because deep down you don't believe you deserve it. Or worse, you feel guilty when it arrives. Healing your relationship with money requires unlearning those inherited beliefs that made survival a virtue and wealth a threat. When you value yourself, you stop spending money to impress others. You stop chasing status symbols and start seeking alignment. Money stops being about proving your worth and starts being about expressing your truth. You buy things that nourish your life, not just your ego. You invest in what builds you, not what distracts you. That shift changes everything, not just your bank account, but your inner peace. How you manage money reveals how you manage boundaries. Overspending is often a sign of emotional leakage, trying to buy comfort, approval, or escape. Underspending, on the other hand, can reflect fear or unworthiness, a subconscious belief that you're not allowed to enjoy your life. True self-worth brings balance. You don't hoard, you don't splurge, you steward. You use money as a tool, not a weapon against yourself. Money will always test your emotional maturity. Can you delay gratification? Can you say no without shame? Can you trust that more is coming without grasping? People who respect themselves don't need to chase every deal or hustle endlessly for validation. They know their value does not fluctuate with their income. Whether their account is full or low, their self-worth stays rooted. That stability is what draws in more. Generosity is also shaped by self-worth. When you lack it, giving feels like depletion, like losing something. But when you feel whole, giving becomes an overflow. You give not to be seen, but because you see. Not to prove you're good, but because goodness is your nature. Worthiness creates open hands, hands that receive, hands that share, hands that hold wealth without fear or attachment. And perhaps most powerfully, your relationship with money is how you show the world how to treat you. If you tolerate being underpaid, overworked, or undervalued, the world will mirror that back. But when you raise your standards, the world adjusts. Money follows belief, and belief begins with one simple question. Do you believe you are worth more? In a world obsessed with instant gratification, discipline feels like rebellion. Everywhere you look, there's something to scroll, swipe, taste, or buy. We're told that freedom means doing whatever we want, whenever we want. But true freedom is not the absence of boundaries. It's the presence of self-directed structure. Discipline is the quiet decision to delay the dopamine rush for something deeper. It's choosing alignment over indulgence in a culture that profits from your distractions. Luxury used to mean silk sheets, 5-star dinners, and front-row tickets. But today, luxury is the ability to say no to things that waste your energy. It's turning your phone off at 9 p.m. because your peace is more valuable than another hour of digital noise. It's waking up early to work on your dream instead of hitting snooze for the 10th time. In a society that praises consumption, discipline becomes the rarest form of elegance. Discipline is not about punishment, it's about devotion. It's a daily commitment to your future self. Every time you resist the urge to settle, scroll, or shrink, you're casting a vote for the life you really want. It's not always glamorous, it's often inconvenient, but it's in those small, consistent choices that self-respect is built. You don't feel good because of what you bought or posted. You feel good because you kept a promise to yourself. We often wait to feel motivated before we act, but discipline doesn't rely on motivation. It shows up when motivation doesn't. It shows up when you're tired, when you're bored, when the glow of the goal has faded and you're left with routine. Discipline is what bridges the gap between intention and transformation. It's the voice that says, I do this not because it's easy, but because I'm worth the effort. People think discipline is rigid, but in reality, it creates space. When you're disciplined, you don't have to negotiate with yourself every morning. You don't have to waste mental energy deciding whether or not to honor your commitments. You already decided. That clarity frees you. It removes the mental clutter. It allows you to focus. And in that focus, you find momentum. And in momentum, you find power. Discipline reveals what you truly value. If you're disciplined about your health, it shows you value vitality. If you're disciplined in your finances, it shows you value stability. If you're disciplined in your words, it shows you value peace. Every habit is a signal. Every routine is a mirror. You don't need to broadcast your values. Your discipline speaks them quietly, powerfully, and consistently. There's a misconception that discipline takes away joy. But the truth is, lack of discipline leads to chaos, and chaos erodes joy. The snoozed alarm becomes a rushed morning. The skipped workout becomes a foggy mind. The mindless spending becomes financial stress. Discipline doesn't remove freedom, it protects it. It's the foundation that allows joy to arrive and actually stay. To be disciplined is to respect time. Your time, other people's time, and the finite nature of life. It's recognizing that attention is a currency and energy is not endless. When you choose structure over impulse, you create space for your gifts to grow. You no longer live at the mercy of moods, cravings, or convenience. You become steady in a world that is constantly shifting. Everything begins in the mind. Your thoughts are the raw materials of your choices, your emotions, and your habits. Before you speak, you think. Before you act, you imagine. Before you quit, succeed, love, or break down. Your mind has already drawn a map. Most people try to fix their life by rearranging circumstances. But until you manage your mind, the patterns will repeat themselves in different settings, with different faces. Your mind is not a truth machine. It's a storyteller. It interprets, filters, adds meaning, and draws conclusions, often without your permission. If you don't take charge of the narrative, it will write one for you, one rooted in fear, assumptions, and survival. Mind management is about recognizing that just because a thought arises doesn't mean it deserves to stay. You can observe it, question it, replace it. The power is not in what you think, but in what you choose to believe. A mismanaged mind leads to a mismanaged day. You wake up and immediately check your phone. Now your attention is fractured. You replay yesterday's tension. Now your mood is heavy. You jump from task to task. Now your energy is scattered. This isn't because life is chaotic. It's because your thoughts are unchecked. Managing your mind means creating mental order before the day demands your response. One of the greatest signs of mind mastery is emotional discipline. When your thoughts run wild, your emotions follow. You feel anxious not always because something's wrong, but because your thoughts are imagining everything that could go wrong. You feel rejected not necessarily because someone harmed you, but because your mind interpreted it as personal. When you learn to slow down your thoughts, your emotional landscape becomes more stable. Mind management also means you become aware of yourself. The way you speak to yourself in the quiet moments determines how you walk into loud rooms. If your inner voice is critical, doubtful, or panicked, it will affect your confidence, creativity, and peace. But if your inner dialogue is kind, focused, and grounded, you move through the world with calm authority. That internal tone becomes the music of your life. Untrained minds crave distraction. They're uncomfortable with stillness. They jump from thought to thought, needing stimulation to avoid discomfort. But a trained mind knows how to focus, how to sit with discomfort without running, how to create before consuming. Mind management builds your attention span, and your attention is your life. It's what you give your minutes, hours, and years to. When your mind is managed, problems become challenges, not identities. You don't spiral, you strategize. You don't internalize, you interpret. You don't resist reality, you work with it. You spend less time reacting and more time responding. You become less ruled by moods and more led by principles. And that shift creates a life that feels intentional, not accidental. Your relationships, your health, your career, your peace. All of it reflects how well you govern your mind. You can have talent and lose to overthinking. You can have beauty and lose to insecurity. You can have opportunity and lose to indecision. But when your mind is clear, steady, and trained to serve you, not sabotage you, everything else becomes more manageable. We live in a world that worships noise. Constant movement, constant connection, constant doing. But beneath all the activity, there is an ache for stillness, an ache for space to think, to feel, to be. Stillness is not laziness. It's not procrastination. Stillness is strategy. It's where intuition has room to speak. It's where wisdom settles in. It's where truth rises to the surface, not because you chase it, but because you finally stopped running long enough to receive it. Most people react because they don't pause. They speak too quickly, decide too quickly, panic too quickly. But when you build stillness into your rhythm, you stop letting urgency control you. You learn to respond not from fear, but from grounded awareness. Stillness becomes your anchor in chaos. It slows down the storm long enough for you to see the pattern, the purpose. The opening stillness is how you reset your nervous system. The world doesn't just exhaust your schedule, it exhausts your spirit. Every alert, every deadline, every demand pulls you outward. Without stillness, you forget how to return to yourself. You start mistaking anxiety for productivity. Busyness becomes your identity. But in stillness, your body breathes differently. Your mind softens, your soul recalibrates to its natural pace. Some of your most important answers won't come through effort. They will come through stillness. You can analyze, strategize, overthink for hours and still feel stuck. But the moment you enter stillness, clarity begins to rise from within. Stillness isn't empty. It's rich with inner knowing. It clears the fog. It sharpens perception. It reveals what hustle often hides, that you already have access to the insight you need. Stillness is not the absence of activity, but the presence of awareness. You can be in a meeting and still be still. You can be in motion and still be deeply centered. True stillness lives in the quality of your attention. It's when your mind isn't scattered, when your emotions aren't flaring, when your breath leads instead of rushes. From that place, your presence becomes a force. You walk into a room and shift its temperature, not by volume, but by vibration. In leadership, stillness is a superpower. The best decisions are rarely made in frenzy. Leaders who pause before they speak, reflect before they move, and listen more than they announce, operate from a different level of influence. They don't just manage moments, they master energy. And that mastery creates trust, stability, and vision in the people around them. Stillness also protects you from emotional sabotage. When you're constantly in motion, you're more likely to react from old wounds, project your fears, or misread intentions. But stillness gives you the space to examine what's yours, what's not, and what needs healing. It allows you to choose peace over pattern. It gives you the strength to sit with discomfort long enough to transform it. And in a culture obsessed with speed, stillness becomes sacred. It's where creativity is born. It's where healing takes root. It's where you remember that your worth is not tied to what you produce. Stillness is how you hear your own voice again, beneath the pressure, beneath the noise, beneath the expectations that are not even yours to carry.